Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Approval of minutes.
Make a motion to approve the January 19th, 2022 regular meeting minutes and the January 31st, 2022 special minutes.
I'll second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Will there be any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Changes to agenda. Hearing none, move on to presentations. Sewer rate presentation. So do we gotta go through it again now? Or?
Well, I think it's appropriate at this time to ask community members if they have any questions.
Does anybody have any questions on the sewer rate study that was present? Anything else? I guess we can move on to Apex Engineering. Bob, I haven't seen you in a long time.
It has been a while. So, good evening, Mayor, Council, staff. Just wanted to give you an update on a few items this evening. Hopefully everybody got my agenda that I provided to Willie. Hopefully it's in your packet. I'm going to go ahead and through that. So the things that I want to talk about this evening, first of all, is the 2022 underground utility and street improvements. Just wanted to give you an update. We obviously are in the design phase of that project. I actually sent you an email this afternoon, Willie. We'd like to get together with some of the city staff members here coming up in the near future, just to go through some of the specifics of the design of that project, various street widths, things like that. So I think I'd thrown out a couple of days for next week. So if that works, we'd like to get together and work on finalizing the design of the improvement area. Just for a reminder, the proposed 2022 underground utility and street improvement areas include a good portion of Schliemann Avenue, a very good portion of Rooney Avenue, and then one block of Beale Street. So the map of those areas are included in your outline, I believe. So opinion of probable cost, we haven't changed anything there. We're at 5.4 million. I don't know if any of you are paying attention to material prices, things like that, availability, fuel prices. We're just going to have to wait and see what the numbers come in at once we advertise for bids. We're hearing a lot of different things out there. So to update that information right now is probably going to be a waste of my time and effort. So, and then again, we're going to move ahead with filling out the application to receive funding from the Public Facilities Authority. Willie, you and I are going to be working together here in the next month to get that information put together. I've already started that process. With that being said, once I get everything filled out that I can, I will get a list of information that I do need from the city to complete those applications, and we will definitely be in contact on those. So the other thing that I wanted to touch base on with that particular project is special assessments. I know we had talked about special assessments last year. Definitely it sounded to me like the city would like to move ahead with special assessing a portion of those improvements. We reviewed a couple of assessment policies. It's my understanding the city adopted an assessment policy. So if the city wishes to specially assess a portion of those improvements, the first thing that needs to be done is to pass a resolution ordering a preparation of report. Obviously, when we did the facilities plan for all the areas that we've done so far, those areas that are included in this project area were documented in that report. So we're just going to have to basically reduce that report down to just include the areas of Schliemann, Rooney, and Beale that the city is going to hopefully move ahead with construction for. But again, I would ask this evening that a resolution ordering a preparation of report be passed. That is required per Chapter 429 state statute. There's a certain process that we have to follow, and that's the first order in that process. So, any questions on the underground utility and street improvement project?
From the public?
Yeah, I guess as far as I'm concerned, yeah.
I live on East Schliemann Avenue, part of the project.
Okay.
And I want to know how much service interruption I can expect during the construction.
As
Water and sewer.
water and sewer, very good question. So typically what happens as far as the water side, anywhere where we're gonna be replacing the water main, we require the contractor to set up what's called temporary water service before work begins. So what they're gonna do is they're gonna string out piping on top of the ground, typically within the boulevards, connected to existing water mains, and typically what they'll do is they'll hook it up to the outside hose bibs on your houses. And so when they shut that water main down, you will have water service through that temporary water line.
Through the garden spigot.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, they'll backfeed it through the gardens, the hose bibs. And we have to have them basically disinfect those lines. We have them tested to make sure that they're disinfected properly. There's no contaminants in those lines before they put them online. So really, as far as the water goes, very limited. Same thing with the sanitary sewer. A lot of times as they go, what they'll do is they'll come in, the existing main line for sanitary sewer will remain in place until they come along and install the new one. Once they come along and install the new one, they a lot of times temporarily hook up piping from the service lateral that's still in the ground to the new main line. And once they get done with the main line, they typically come back and then they will install each individual service lateral at that time. So when they install each individual service lateral, they probably will come to your house and say, hey, we're gonna be installing your service lateral. It's gonna take us an hour or two. You may wanna try to refrain from producing any wastewater if you can. So as far as the utility disruptions, they're gonna be very limited. Yeah. And then as far as, I'll just go into the surface improvements, it's a reconstruction project. We typically try to have contractors allow people access to their houses, driveways, things like that, the best they can. With that being said, it is a reconstruction project. There are gonna be times where you're gonna have only a gravel surface in front of your house. There may be times where they'll come and say, hey, we're gonna be actually installing the water main, the gravity sanitary sewer, the storm sewer in front of your house tomorrow. You may not be able to get to your house for a certain period of time. Typically, we try to notify people if that's gonna happen though. So, does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
What's the expected life of the infrastructure you're putting in?
That's a very, very good question. Again, starting with the underground utilities, the new sanitary sewer and water main will be PVC pipe. The jury's still out on that as far as how long that type of material is gonna last. I had a county commissioner the other day that was making a presentation. Supposedly, he had mentioned that supposedly he was told it was gonna last 400 years. I don't necessarily know if I believe that. But I would say life expectancy for, let's say, a gravity sanitary sewer line, I'm thinking right now, in my mind, 100 to 150 years. But again, I really can't say specifically one way or the other because we don't know. So that's the PVC infrastructure. The surface infrastructure, I'm just going to touch on the bituminous pavement. A lot of times right now, the design life that we design for bituminous pavement is 20 to 30 years. In today's world, with the maintenance and things that we can do with that, we're definitely trying to extend the life of those pavements. So as far as the surface infrastructure, I would say if you wanted a number, somewhere between 25 to 35 years is probably what you can expect at this time. So, any other questions?
What's your anticipated start date?
Right now, our anticipated start date would be sometime in May or June, depending on the schedule of the contractor. A lot of times in the reconstruction projects, we almost prefer that they don't start until May and June sometimes, so that the frost completely come out of the ground, let some of those soils dry up, so everything isn't a muddy mess when they get going. But it will depend on the contractor as far as what their schedule is for getting going.
You mentioned that the city's gonna already get an assessment on levels the improvements. Based on that, what can I look at for the assessment?
God, these are some very good questions. Just did some real rough numbers here based on what we've done for preliminary estimated costs. And I will say this, we put these costs together last fall. We're hearing a lot of things about material prices being up anywhere from 20 to 30%. Talked to a contractor this morning. He said they're actually bidding their fuel prices at double what they did last year because right now they're significantly higher and we don't know what they're going to go to. So just did some rough numbers. So can I ask what size parcel you have?
It's one of the Severance second edition up there.
Is it on the interior of the block or is it on a corner?
It's on the corner, but I
Yeah, and we would have to get into the specifics on that as far as what's actually being disturbed as part of the project. So I can elaborate a little bit. The city's assessment policy right now indicates that if you're on a corner lot, for the surface improvements, they would assess 100% of the short side of your lot or parcel. And if the project affects both sides of your parcel, then on the long side, you would be assessed 1/3 of the footage. So in this case, we're not probably going to be affecting the long side of your lot. So at this point, I'm just going to assume, is it 75 or 50 feet wide? Do you know that? So for a 75-foot interior parcel, again, just this is ballpark information. Right now, the numbers that I'm coming up with are around that probably $20,000 range. And as far as repaying that, if the city does receive funding through the PFA, that would likely be repaid over a 20-year period. And an interest rate, as far as on the assessments, typically are 1% to 2% higher with the funding the city gets. So in this case, we would anticipate if the city gets PFA funding, the interest rate would be 1%. So the interest rate then you would pay as a property owner being assessed would probably be around that 2% to 3%. Again, please do not etch those numbers in stone. I'm just giving you a general idea of what I've come up with to date. Obviously, all these numbers are going to be affected by actual bid costs or bids received, and then beyond that, actual construction costs. So they should just give you a general idea. Working with it, yeah, I'm not involved with some of the other members of our firm are, but if you've got a question, I can try to answer it. Very good question as well. So right now, made a phone call actually on the way down here with Tim and Chris. It sounds like there's been some delays with some of the, I'm going to call it electrical or controls equipment, even beyond what we expected. I think a month ago, we were hoping sometime in February it was going to get started. Willie, correct me if I'm wrong here, but at this time, we're thinking probably sometime the end of March or beginning of April is what we're hearing right now. Yeah, it's been a long year and a half, I will say that. A lot of frustration on these types of projects, whether it's lift stations, wastewater treatment facilities, water treatment plants. We've seen a lot of these cases where things are being delayed, and in this case, it's nice that you've got a treatment plant that is still operating. Obviously, it's reached its useful life, and there's been some challenges up there, but we're hoping to see that thing get put online sooner than anybody else. So, and I believe the contractor probably is as well. So, did I miss anything there, Willie?
No, just a point about that. The contractor definitely is, because we have a contract that makes them pay liquidated damages for unreasonable delays. So they are definitely motivated to finish.
Yeah. So, and that's the challenge, like I said, we're having on a lot of projects, is there's just a lot of material supply chain issues, and it's been an ongoing thing for the last probably 18 to 24 months.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Depends on when they made the order.
Yeah. So there's some things contractually that we're going to have to go through in the end, but I think the contractor knows the position that they're in, and I'm assuming they're making every effort that they can to get the materials here to finish this project.
I guess that brings up another question. Is the bid coming off the street work, is there a preference for contractor?
There is not. Typically, when we go through the public bidding process, there really is no favoritism on any local contractors. It's pretty much based on the low bid basis, unless there's some history between a community and a specific contractor where something has happened in the past where the city is not comfortable hiring that contractor. It's very, very rare that the contract is not awarded to the low bidder.
We've had problems with contractors, low bid contractors up here. You promote the high low, and then choose the center.
Typically, what we do is whoever submits the low bid is the bid that the city typically awards. We obviously check references as if we're not familiar with this particular contractor that submits the low bid. But like I said, I think that in my 18 years of doing this, I think there's only been 2 times where a public entity, whether it's a county or a city, on the projects that I've worked on have not awarded the contract to the low bidder. A lot of times, and that would obviously be referred to your city attorney, that's also a legal question. A lot of times if this situation comes up, it gets put in the hands of the city's attorney, because a lot of times if that contract is not awarded to the low bidder, attorneys do get involved, so. Yeah, very good questions. Any other questions?
Thank you, Bob.
Yep. The other thing that I would like to discuss, moving on here, if I could, to item number 2, is the underground utility and street improvements facilities plan 2. I did include a map of all the areas that we are including in that facilities plan. As you can see, it is a major portion of the city. And we also added in all of the city's wastewater lift stations and force mains. I know that was originally not talked about. Since we actually started doing this, the city has had some issues with some of your lift stations, and we just figured we might as well put all them in there as well. So I've included a separate schematic just showing where your existing lift stations are and where the force mains are. Willie, we've also got some paperwork to do for completing that as well. My goal is to get everything regarding that facilities plan to the MPCA by the end of February or early March. The deadline is March 4th. We do have to have an official public hearing that is required per state statute whenever we do a facilities plan. And at this time, I would like to have that at your regularly scheduled council meeting in March, which I believe is March 16th, where we would come in, same format that I did before. I'll give a PowerPoint presentation. I just summarize what's actually in the facilities plan, because if we went through the facilities plan, it would be a very long presentation and a very long meeting, and obviously we'll all have a lot of things to do. So, I guess just to summarize, does anybody have any questions for me on anything? A lot going on right now. Willie and I are going to be working a lot the next couple months on different things for funding, the facilities plan related stuff. So again, I just wanted to come and give an update, and then again, I would ask that resolution authorizing the preliminary engineer report be considered this evening. So,
All right, thank you.
thank you.
Okay, that took care of the public comments too on that one. Moving on to new business. Resolution 2022-11.
I'll second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Will there be any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Resolution 2022-12.
Motion to adopt resolution 2022-12, adjusting sewer utility rates pursuant to the following schedule of rates for sewer utility users in 2022.
So here you guys would need to read out the residential rates, apartment, commercial, and industrial rates that you are gonna select as a city council. The proposed, just to refresh here, the proposed by Martinson and Isley, is for residents $40, for apartment owners $80, for commercial $60, and for industrial $100. From the city's perspective, the residential rate of $40 is something that will be very difficult for our average resident. Beyond that, that's the only input that I could put at this point.
And looking at this and thinking about what can come down the road, I'd like to make this residential sewer charge of $30 a month.
Any discussion on that?
I like 30. I mean, I don't like it, but it's,
Yeah, nobody's gonna like.
I
when
like
it comes out.
$27.50, but it's a small change from $27.50 to $30.
what about changing the volume charges? Are we gonna mess with that, or?
That will automatically go with the.
Yep, that stays the same, correct?
In my opinion, I like to keep them this way, and if we have to go up next year, we do, but charge them up front now if we don't have to. Is my opinion.
What is 2750? That's a 9 or 12% raise then, correct, over? I mean, I don't know what everybody thinks. I mean, we don't want, the public's gonna be upset if anything goes up. It's just the nature of the beast, but
And is it 7,500 a month or annually?
7,500.
That gallon or whatever,
750 gallons a month.
750
Allocated.
gallons a month?
Yep.
That's included with the base rate.
Yes.
Yes.
Are you, referring to the proposed $6.30
Yep.
per 750 gallons?
Yeah.
So that is the total usage, is considered, and then per 750 gallons, they're charged $6.30.
So if you use 760 gallons, then do you pay another three, or is it prorated down per gallon? Or is it just if you're over 750, then you're charged $12.06 then, right? Or 60 cents?
Okay, so 750 gallons equates to 100 cubic feet, which is like 0.063 cents per cubic foot. So if you use 751 cubic feet, you'd be charged 0.63
Okay,
cents
yep.
per cubic foot. So
Yep.
it would just be,
That's what I wanted to know. If it
Yeah.
just didn't roll over at 750 and double it.
when you convert it to cubic feet and 100,
easier.
it helps a little bit.
Yep,
to
yep.
sort of put the number a little bit.
Okay. So what should we do? Vote on this line by
I would say, can we
line?
finish the rest of the boxes and then decide, or do you have to go per line?
Well, we need everybody to agree they can agree or disagree with each line, so. I mean, should we just call it to a vote for each line, or
Yep,
should we?
I think to be safe, you should.
So somebody wanna make that a motion for the residential for $30?
So moved.
We have a motion for $30. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any other discussion on that? Chad, you look concerned.
Yeah. Because if I don't know them other three, it's hard to affect it, but I guess if, I'll go with it.
Can I, just to assail your concerns slightly, Emma, can you pull up that slide that you put in your packet, please? We've discussed this, but certain things you have to see. I'll be Vanna White.
Always works until you need it to, right?
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yep, that's good. So this represents our residents who generally use this cubic feet or 1.369 gallons per month. The proposed rate of $40 is here. This is current. This is inclusive of sewer service charge, water service charge, garbage tax, or recreation for your total bill. This is what the average person in this category of consumption pays monthly. The proposed will have us going here for this category of consumption. What the staff is recommending is a $25 a month would have this figure instead. So from 72.44 to 88.91, we're 73.91. So I think it's important to look at it this way, because this is how the bills go out. And so when you're thinking about a single user, household of one, or very conservative consumption, that's this category here. Now, there are other consumers. Emma? Thank you very much. We have 250 accounts that represent above that allocation, of that base allocation. So they typically pay their monthly bill $146. Under the proposed increases, they will pay $169.32. The city's recommendation, again, is $25 for residents, and they would pay $154. So the changes would be from the $146.66 to $169.32 or $154.32. Again, that's in this consumption category for residents who consume beyond the typical allocation. Does that help a little bit?
Yes. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Apartments.
What was that
This-
breakdown again, Willie?
Sorry?
80, 60, and 100 and,
80, 60, and 100.
I mean, I'm good with their recommendations on the commercials. I thought it would be, the residentials could help along the way instead of burdening just the commercial people, so.
I do have a question on the apartment rate. Is that limited to a set number of living units, or is it any apartment?
You can better answer this.
We do have some houses that we do
Exactly.
classify as apartments, because we don't charge them garbage, they're responsible for their own garbage. And some of those do only have 1 meter.
Right.
So, yeah, there is a few residences in town that have multiple units in them that we do bill as apartments.
Okay. As well as the 12 unit.
Yeah, as well as your regular, the ones up here on Schliemann and Tilke and Edquist and,
Yep.
yep.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. So we have the apartments at 80, the commercial at 60, and the industrial at 100.
So we're doing just the apartments. I'd recommend, I make a motion that apartments be 80.
I'll second. Are we going to do it line by line still? Okay.
Yeah, I think we better be, as we started that way.
Okay.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Commercial at $60.
I make a motion that commercial be $60 base rate.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Will there be any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Industrial at 100.
Make a motion that the industrial charge be $100 per month.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Will there be any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Library project update.
Okay, so today we received, the disbursement from the issuance, $1.5 million into our city's general savings account. We have not consumed any of those funds yet. We currently have the asbestos and hazardous materials team that won the bid, MAC asbestos mitigators, or removing all of the asbestos. Those asbestos are of course outside of scope. We were informed that there was some sort of abatement that occurred, but there was no abatement at all. It required quite a big amount of money. The bid came back at $54,150. And which segues me into the next part. I really am asking the city council to consider paying from general funds that abatement charge as opposed to from the issuance proceeds. As Bob mentioned, materials costs are coming up really high. And when we present the project to be viewed by potential contractors, we want them to see a project that's been completely gutted and all hazardous materials mitigated so that those costs are not compounded on top of the cost of construction. So that's where we are with the library project right now.
And how are we sitting on funds in the general? This won't affect our day-to-day functions, correct?
No.
Motion to allow for the city to pay for hazardous materials abatement in the amount of $54,150 from the city of Appleton's general fund and not from the CIP bond proceeds.
I second that.
Motion has been made and seconded. Will there be any other discussion?
Is there any questions from the audience? This here is really important because the community was concerned about costs being higher and concerned about things that they, sort of warned us that it might be higher than we expected, and they were not wrong.
So is there gonna be more surprises that we're not seeing? I mean, this should take care of, this was the only one we were really concerned with.
You should expect that demolition cost may be very high. So what my office will do is I will put out a bid for the demolition cost. If that bid is not within the scope of the budget prepared by the architects, then I will come to city council and ask for permission then to pay not from those proceeds.
Not to put anybody on the spot here or anything, but is our city crew able to do any of this demolition?
That's what I'm gonna be looking into. So the MSR, the architects will give me a scope and what needs to be removed. And then I will go to the streets department and ask them what it is that they feel they can do safely. Because we also have operations that have to go on and we have to make sure they're taking care of the city's utilities and other things first.
Of course.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 52 wing cabinet disposal.
We have some cabinets and other things that we want to get rid of. Disposal of debris is something that will get added to the construction costs. So if we can do a reverse auction to do the disposal.
Anybody wanna make that a motion?
Motion to authorize city administrator to auction off cabinets and other surplus furniture at the 52 wing and otherwise dispose of materials should an action not produce liquidation of materials.
I'll second that.
Motion has been made and seconded. Will there be any other discussion?
So what I'll do is I'll post it in the paper, I'll post a date, and then the city clerk and I will have a good old fashioned auction.
So you just put it on the website there, you'll put it on a,
Well, we have to publish it in the local paper.
okay.
It'll be on the website. Everything's on.
So it'll be like a silent auction
It won't be too silent.
where
They gotta
you
tell
just-
us.
They call and they tell you what they are willing to spend for it, or they
We
fill
will
out
announce the
something?
day, the time, provide as much as we can, a list of the inventory that we're gonna try to auction off. And then they'll give us their best, most expensive bid, and they can only go up from each other.
Will they have a chance to look at any of the items beforehand?
Oh, no, it's disposal. It's disposal.
So you'll have pictures of it though, correct, or nothing?
No, this is material that otherwise does not have a market value. The reason we're having an auction is because I can't find a market value for it.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Before we move on, Mary Jo did ask about the volume charge of the 630 and the SIU charges that were proposed, they were not part of the resolution. Do we have to pass those?
Hold on a second, let's go back to this resolution.
The resolution that in front of the council had the $6.30 in it, that didn't have the surcharges for the BODs and TKN and TFS.
Okay, so the way you can fix that is to reread the resolution and also say accepting the other parts of the proposed. No, it's fine.
So we need to do that, or?
Yep. Recall the vote for resolution 2022-12.
Okay, we need to recall the motion to 2022-12. With the sewer usage and utility rates, we need to add in,
The proposed volume charges and surcharges.
the proposed volume charges and surcharges. Do we have a motion on that?
Motion to adopt resolution 2022-12, adjusting sewer utility rates pursuant to the following schedule for rates for the sewer utility users, as we've already talked about, as well as proposed
Volume charges in the amount of $8 per 750 gallons.
volume.
And surcharges per pound of BOD greater than 250 milligrams per liter. Suspended solids greater than 250 milligrams per liter at 75 cents. And TKN greater than 40 milligrams per liter at $3.50.
So moved.
What was the 200?
Oh, I have a different sheet in front of me.
Yeah, it's a $200,
Yep.
Oh, that.
These are the
Okay.
so it'd be 630,
Okay,
and then these were the recommended surcharges.
do you have them here? Yep, so just read those numbers.
Okay, we'll have the per 750 gallon charge of $6.30, the BOD charge of 70 cents per milliliter. Suspended solids will be 56 cents per milliliter, and TKN will be 275 per milliliter.
Per pound. Milligrams per liter, it says. But she said pounds.
Okay, I'll get that.
Typo.
I'll second it. If that's still a motion.
I hope my
Motion is-
motion's still good.
A motion has been made and seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for them changes. We missed that.
Thank you, Mary Jo.
Okay, byway project manager contract.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
I'm Christy Fernalds. I work with the Upper Minnesota Valley Regional Development Commission. Minnesota River Valley Scenic Byway submitted a grant to Minnesota Historical Society, and the city of Appleton agreed to be the fiscal sponsor for that, fiscal agent for that, so they thank you. They received that grant, and so the two contracts on here are paid directly from that grant. So the first one is the project manager to contract with our office to manage and do some design on the project. So if you want to go ahead and make council action on that contract? Or do you want me to just give my little presentation and then sit down?
You can give your presentation.
Okay, and so then the next one is the byway tear map. And that is to contract with the GIS contractor to create the map. And so this is the first map that they created, if you haven't seen it. And so we're gonna be creating two more maps to finalize this project, and then have a nice set of 3 maps that cover the entire byway. So that's what that grant is for, and this will cover those two projects. The project manager is for $4,500, and the tear map contract is for $5,500. So, any other questions?
The byway, is that associated to Minnesota Historical Association?
So the byway is an alliance. It's 287 miles from Browns Valley to Belle Plaine, and it's a group of folks that get together, and it's a transportation MnDOT designated route. And the alliance is made up of partners, cities, counties, some historical society, museums, chambers, and state parks. And so that's what makes the Byway Alliance. And they wrote the grant to the Minnesota Historical Society. They often fund our projects because there's a lot of historic sites along the Minnesota River. The Byway is probably the only entity, it is the only entity in the state of Minnesota that markets the Minnesota River Valley as a whole, and so really looks at the history along the Minnesota River, We have two national stories. One is the U.S. Dakota War of 1862. That only happened in this river valley, and it's a very important a story in our history. And the other one is the geology and how the river was formed. And so the byway really looks at, again, the whole area as one and tries to tell those national stories and tries to get people to come from out of state into our region. So it's a lot of fun projects.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve the project manager contract for the byway program.
Motion has been made and seconded. Will there be any discussion?
Is there any fund outlay? This is,
There is no cost to the city.
okay, all right.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Byway tearaway map contract.
Motion to approve the byway tearaway map contract.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Will there be any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. CDBG-CB grant.
I'm Bernie Robinson. I'm also with the Upper Minnesota Valley Regional Development Commission. And we are here tonight just to talk about or get approval for the administering the grant for the CDBG CV funds. That's the broadband. And also there's some commercial rehab that we'll be doing with those funds as well. I don't have really a presentation. I just am here to answer any questions you may have on the contracts.
So the RDC will be serving, after this contract is approved, as the administrator for the grants funds. That will free up the city staff from having to do a very specified, statutorily driven process for how you draw down the grant dollars that we were awarded. And they do this, they have experience doing it, and I recommend in favor of this.
Any questions? Thank you.
I'm ready to go to work. We've actually been working on this already, so it isn't brand new to us. But
And their administrative costs do get paid from the proceeds of the grant itself, so.
except for there's a little bit of a charge that we do have to pay for the commercial rehab.
Yep.
So,
Okay, thank you.
Motion to approve the CDBG-CB grant administration contract with the RDC.
Second that.
Motion has been made and seconded. Will there be any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Commercial rehab policy procedures.
so we just have the policies and procedures that we put together, and it's kind of a formality, but it's good for you guys to know some of the policies and procedures that will be taking place. And this is basically just for the commercial, so we're putting in the HVAC units in probably about 12 commercial properties in town. And so we wrote the policies. At the beginning, the timeline is a little bit where it's not fully figured out exactly how that time frame will go. But what we're hoping is that we'll have some contractors come in that will be able to do several projects at one time, basically just to try to save some costs. And again, hoping we can utilize some local contractors with that as well. If you have any other questions, we're here to answer the questions on that too.
Any questions from anyone?
So just to recap, the State Department of Economic Development and Employment, or the state of Minnesota, has a group of policies that guarantees that anybody benefiting from a grant from this particular agency is providing proper stewardship for the use of those funds. And that's what these policies are here for.
So let me,
Looking on that, with all the cost increases we've seen.
Well, we're not really sure. We haven't actually done any of the bids on it yet, but we're hoping. That's really about all you can do at this point. The commercial projects are going to be HVAC units. So we're not sure, I haven't actually heard that those have been a lot of delays on that yet. The broadband, we're hoping to not have any delays with broadband, but it is hard to.
I mean, you've got a grant of so much money and you wanna do so many projects. Who pays for any overages, cost increases?
Well, the bid hasn't actually been out yet for those, so, yeah, and maybe Kristen's got more to add.
So for the commercial rehab, we wrote the grant. It's similar to a small cities commercial rehab project. And each project has up to $25,000 to spend on an HVAC system. So, we'll be working with each business and they will put together a bid. And so if a business has more than $25,000 worth of the system costs more than the business would have to pay for that extra, is at this time. Yep.
Is that the same with broadband too? If the price of that goes up, does the provider have to pay the overage or?
No, we are currently in a process of contracting. So the bidding process is over. We're now in the contracting phase.
And we have enough grant funds to cover the cost of the current.
Yep, the good news is the bid, or rather the proposal, came in way under. And so we have some room there to really do this project right. And just as a little update, the Federated already has Cooperated Network Solutions, which is a subcontract for them, plotting out the city. So in the next couple of weeks, you'll see people who you don't really know around. They're sizing things up to see where they can lay the subconduit for the fiber.
Any other questions for her? Thank you. Thank you, guys. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve the CDBG-CV commercial rehabilitation policies and procedures.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Will there be any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Civic Center heating issues.
Well, one of the lovely treasures I have inherited is the Civic Center has a lot of problems with the heating. One of our tenants in particular, the RDC, they have a lot of issues getting heat. We finally got a really good handle on what the issues are. There's a combination of a lack of airflow, a combination of ductwork that needs to be capped out, and to get the optimal solutions, we want to make sure the valves are replaced so that nobody has to go downstairs physically and shut them on and off, that the thermostats are optimized and put in better positions of the building, and perhaps that the RDC has their own unit, either a furnace or an electric air handler. So before you have groups of options. The options 1, 2, and 4 are $15,167. Option 2 there is $34,946, and that is for the RDC getting its own furnace. And then the other option is $30,290 with the RDC having an electric air handler. If you only do option 1, the cost of $15,167, then the heat that they will get will distribute from the top, not from the bottom, which is less than optimal because of course the heated air would stay higher. And they are in the north side of the building. It's a lot colder.
That's been an issue for years. I've been kind of trying to work with that when they had Geo in there. You know, we originally had a fossil fuel heating system in here and the air just isn't hot enough pushing it that far down because it runs underground through heat tubes in the floor. But it's been an issue here for a lot of years because I've worked on it. So, I mean, my opinion is I think we should give them their own dedicated heater and spend the $35,000 and fix it right finally for the last time. Because it's, I mean, you've been in here when it's either cold or hot, or you're over there, it's hot in the hallway and cold in the deal. I mean, there's been issues here for a long
And there's a
time.
bunch, I would just guess there's a bunch of space heaters and stuff running down there now to try to compensate
Yeah,
for
well,
this.
you
And I
know,
mean,
in
we
my
all
Dawn's
know
office, I've been
how
in there
efficient
and
that
there's,
is.
electric heaters under their desk and stuff because it's not the
cold
optimal
in there.
heating system.
So
Well,
you're
and I was
thinking-
just in the city office here and we got screwdrivers out. And we got the fan running high enough to heat the RDC, but we had to take screwdrivers and shut the ducts all the way along Emma's wall. Cause it was like 87 degrees in their room and it was, it's not optimal the way.
So you're thinking option 2 is the best one to go with?
Yeah.
Okay. Motion to approve group number 2, or group option number 2 in the amount of $34,946.
I second that.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Workers' compensation insurance.
I got a quote, comparable to other years. We really don't have too much that we can do to avoid it. The League of Minnesota Cities Trust, as I shared the last year, had a lot of PTSD claims and people out from police departments across the state, which drove these costs up by 35%. And general insurance cost for property and casualty up by 4%. We're still paying for it in 2022.
Make a motion to approve the League of Minnesota Cities Trust Workers' Compensation Insurance quote for 2022 in the amount of $53,765.
I'll second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any other discussion?
Just one quick question. With regards to this, us being a municipal, do we have to buy work comp insurance through the LMC?
We don't have to, but it's highly atypical for you to have property and casualty with one group specializing in municipal insurance markets and then to get a different group. And also the groups that provide it in Minnesota are, I have to go out and look for them.
Okay,
But to answer your question, it's not obligatory.
all right.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Garbage contract for 2022.
We're still putting a couple of bells and whistles on this one, Janice and I, but what I'm asking is for you to approve what you have before you. Mr. Mathiasen worked hard with me, and the schedule of increases that he put, he varied so that not every year is a 2% increase. 1 year it'll be 1%, 1 year 1.5. He varies it a little bit for a 5-year term. He also requested that we put in a fuel surcharge, and I went ahead and I updated that, Janice, to make sure it's diesel fuel. So that's in there, and we're asking for you to approve it, provided final legal review occurs prior to me signing.
So with regards to the fuel surcharge, that wouldn't be constant. It would have to reach a certain price and then it,
So I'll
that
read it
kicks
for you.
in.
And this is the first time your contract will have it, and this is how I wrote it. In the event that fuel prices as listed by the U.S. Department of Energy Fuel Economy website for the state of Minnesota, I cite the website, reach gallon prices of $4 for diesel fuel for a consecutive period of not more than 30 days, the contractor shall provide written notice to the city of Appleton of an intent to negotiate a diesel fuel surcharge. Any diesel fuel surcharge arrangement settled between the contractor and the city of Appleton shall not exceed a period of 6 months. If fuel prices remain above the dollar threshold for a period of exceeding 6 months, the contractor and the city of Appleton shall negotiate an extension of surcharge period not to exceed 6 months.
Anybody care to make that a motion?
Motion to approve the 2022 garbage contract, provided a final review is performed by the city attorney.
I second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any other discussion?
Chad, you're working with a lot of surcharges now at Westcon?
we don't, we've gone away from them.
Okay.
We used to have them and we've gone away from them. We just bump up the base rate to what it needs to be and go with it.
Okay.
That's why I was asking if we can just,
I was
not that we
curious.
would have to do away with the fuel surcharge, but just if there's limits of when it can be charged and when it can't, looks like there is, so I think we're safe. I think we are.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Is the rate going up this year?
The schedule of rates are as follows. For year 2022, the monthly is 5,956 for an annual amount of 71,472. In 2023, 72,408. In 2025, 73,704. In 2020, excuse me, that was 2024. In 2025, 75,180, and in 2026, $76,080.
So that's what the city pays,
That's what we pay to the contractor.
so then that gets divvied up amongst the number of residents, is that how you?
Yep.
collect it?
And just for comparison, let's look at,
That doesn't include businesses and the people that get charged directly,
No.
right? It's just for the residents, I believe.
one thing that, since we're discussing it, then let's talk about it. Mr. Mathiasen mentioned to me that he may be switching to an automated, collection system. And so I accounted for that in here as well. And I said the following to try to give us some time, because that would likely mean some costs for us.
The city or the homeowner would have to buy the dumpster that they come by and pick up and throw in, like when you drive out of town and you see those on the end of the driveway. That's what they wanna go to, so they don't have to handle your garbage cans. It'll just drive by with the truck and dump it in the truck.
So this is what I put in to deal with that situation. In the event that the contractor elects to migrate trucks or equipment that collect garbage with the use of automated robotics, equipment, machinery of any kind that require homogeneous or specific waste receptacles or garbage cans from residents receiving garbage services, the contractor shall provide not less than 90 days' notice in writing to the city of Appleton. The notice will trigger a meeting with to negotiate contract amending, including but not limited to the conditions for price considerations and implementation schedule. Nothing in this section shall relieve the contractor of their burden to satisfy all other provisions of this agreement. So, just in case, because, I mean, there are some grants out there. I've written a couple of them in other states. I'm pretty sure, given my experience with grants in this state, Minnesota is, we have an abundance of riches, if you will. Our agencies want to help us. So we would be able to find something, but what we're asking for is some time. The implementation schedule will be really hard on all of us, and that would trigger us to renegotiate in that instance.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Public Works Facility Maintenance Agreement.
Motion to approve the Public Works Facility Maintenance Agreement contract, provided a final review is performed by the city attorney.
I second.
Motion is made and seconded. You want to elaborate on that, Willie, or?
Yep, the city of Appleton, together with the Minnesota Department of Transportation, owns our public works facility. They own 25% of it. They are not tenants. And they are responsible then for 25% of the maintenance. The way that this agreement was structured before, required, like 4 different committees just to have basic maintenance done. And so what my office has done is we updated to reflect the structural organization of our city today, making it much easier to collect the people necessary to make the changes that are needed there. As an example, since the inception of this contract to recent, there has been $62,000 of cost in total for the maintenance, $15,000 of which the city has lost out by not making a request. And it's not that they don't want to help at the state, but they literally never received a request. So we're making sure that never happens again.
Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Demolition reimbursement, Joan Corstens.
All of Ms. Corstens' paperwork is in here. They got their quote. They have asbestos mitigation proof that they don't have an asbestos rather. And it's been torn down, so they have complied with all aspects of that program.
Motion to approve demolition reimbursement in the amount of $2,500 for Joan Corstens.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Purchases above purchase policy.
Motion to approve the payment of goods and services beyond the purchase policy threshold in the amount of $184,027.90.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. This will be coming out of a lot of those funds again, Willie?
So in the case of Magnet Construction and Apex, for the 25,000 portion, those are water treatment plant projects which are reimbursed through MNPFA's drawdown schedule for the city of Appleton. The rest of them are paid out of general fund. The other Apex, 54,515, that's for the wastewater facility studies that they have done, the underground utilities design phase that they have recently performed for us. Also included is Probes Engineer, who are working on the SIU agreement, MSR Designs, Library Architects, McGuire Iron, were the emergency group that we hired for the water tower, and Prairie 5 Capital is the replacement of the buses that they use, which we're in agreement with. We have an agreement with them.
Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Transaction summary.
We can read it, or you can read it on your own. It's been posted online. We're in a healthy in a healthy financial position. Our total balance is $3.8 million. Unrestricted is $2.8 million, and the restricted fund balance is $1,019,547. So we are within the statutory guidelines, and also the recommendation of the state auditor that 35 to 45% of our general fund is unrestricted. So we're good there.
All right, liquor store fund expenditure limit for 2022.
Motion to establish an expenditure limit of $609,608.54 for the city of Appleton municipal liquor store for the year 2022.
Yep, so we had some bouncing around up and down for the liquor store. In general, gross profits are steady, but total expenditures are high and revenues are decreased. So this expenditure limit that you're setting is a way of you keeping staff accountable to our expenditure limits so as to adjust to the market changes. The impact of the pandemic from 2020 to 2021 have started to subside. So we had an initial spike in sales. There was a lot of people home, unfortunately, because of the pandemic, and they were purchasing alcohol. And now things are slowly but surely coming back to normal, which means that we're selling a little bit less. The cost also of products and merchandise have gone up across the board more than 3% in some instances. So we need to do some changes, and we need to limit how much we're spending on our cost of goods. So.
To stay competitive, can we raise rates and or profit margins and stay competitive?
Raise rates, you mean raise the cost?
Raise the cost of.
Yes, especially along the beer. If you look at the budget that I put there, beer sales in particular are almost insensitive. So they're going to sell no matter what. Now, what's a little more sensitive to changes is liquor, the mixes, which includes pop and stuff like that, because of course there's substitutes in other places you can get that. The issue when you look at the graphs is not so much that they're moving homogeneously, but what you want between your gross profit and your net position is for them to move in an inverse relationship to cost. Right now they're all moving in the same direction with a lot of space between them. And so we're trying to adjust for that. We've hired new staff who are doing very well, and now we just have to make sure that we raise the cost of certain items, not all of them, but certain items, to keep up with the cost for these items, because beer costs have gone up.
I like the way you're looking at it, one item at a time, basically,
Yep.
in a sense, you could say. Okay, good.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Closed session.
Motion to enter into closed session for the purpose of forming an employee evaluation.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Open meeting law does require you to state the name of each individual that we'll be discussing in the closed session before we go into closed session, so I just wanted to
okay.
put that on the record.
That's you or who?
It's me, yeah.
Okay,
Do we have to return that motion?